So Ramakrishna was also one among the reformers of modern India, right? During the same 18th, 19th century. And he was the one, right? He was among those reformers who tried to eradicate or to educate people against not to believe in superstitions, in social evils, not to practice social evils. But his reforms have been mainly through his life, right? We can understand, we can learn his reforms through his life, mainly, whatever he has done. Now, so far, we have done Roy and Dayanand. These two people, these two reformers, they advocated the worship of the formless God, right? That is, they worship the formless God and they rejected idol worship, God having a form. They rejected that. But this one, Sri Ramakrishna, he is one among the reformers who believed and practiced idol worship, right? A bit different from others too that we have done, but yes, he brought great reforms in the religious aspect, especially. We are going to see about him. So I guess you might have heard about the Ramakrishna mission, right? So Ramakrishna mission, it has the name Ramakrishna, and this is the same Ramakrishna mission. But the Ramakrishna mission was not founded by Ramakrishna Paramhamsa himself. You might get a question, who founded the Ramakrishna mission? One mark question can be there. So the answer is definitely not Ramakrishna, but Swami Dayanand. Swami Dayanand was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. After Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda continued on the path taught by his guru, and he founded this mission, right? So as I told you, you may get a question, one more question. Who is the founder of the Ramakrishna mission? So that will be the answer. So let's see about him. He had few titles, people gave him titles based on what he was doing, his reforms, his work, right? Some called him the holy man, some called him a mystic, some remarkable sage, or even Siddha Purush. Siddha Purush means the one who have a direct vision of the truth. Siddha Purush, right? So he is at times referred as the younger brother of Jesus Christ. Well, this is what people say usually about him. He is the founder of modern India and incarnation of God on earth. Those who believe in him, those who consider him to be their guru, they consider him to be an incarnation of God on earth, right? So it's not a matter of our discussion right now. Sasidar chose he was or he was not, but our focus remains now on his reforms, right? So about his life, he was born in Bengal. He was Bengali in a village called Kamarpukar in Bengal on 18th Feb 1836, right? Parents Khudiram and Chandramani, the parents. And usually, parents have a great effect or influence on children, right? So his parents too had great influence on him, right? So when these two, Khudiram and Chandramani, they went for a pilgrimage in Gaya. I guess you know Gaya in India, which is now called Bodh Gaya because Buddha got enlightenment there. He meditated there. It is the same place, Gaya. So Chandramani and Khudiram went there to perform Shraddh, and the couple was blessed by the vision of Vishnu. It is said that Vishnu kind of appeared in front, having the vision there, the god appears in front, right? And Vishnu blessed them that he would be born in their family. Well, this is what history says about his parents. So when Lord Vishnu blessed them, the couple, that he will himself take birth in his family, in their family. After that, then Chandramani gave birth to a son whose name was Gadadhar. That is the original name of Ramakrishna, right? You may get a question here again, what is the original name of Ramakrishna? So it will be Gadadhar, right? Now, why Gadadhar? Because, and say Lord Vishnu blessed them, and they were also pious family, right? Devoted to God. So the name Gadadhar is a name of Vishnu. Gada means, the weapon Gada, like Hanuman has, Gada. Dhar means the hold. No, the one who holds a Gada is Gadadhar, the mace, right? So Vishnu definitely has a Gada, has a mace with him. He holds that. So that's why they gave him such a name, right? Now, about his education, Ramakrishna was not interested in education, academic education. He was not at all interested in that. His main concern has always been religion and spirituality since his very childhood, right? So he would also be part of, yeah, I would say, to be together with people like good people, sages, especially those going on pilgrimage, right? So this helped, being in good company helped him to develop such a personality, to have such a personality and character. So he spent his time, as he was interested mainly in religion and spirituality, he spent his time uh, learning prayers, stories from Mahabharata, the Ramayana also, right? Apart from this, he knew practically nothing. So he was channeled, he was directed only to God, right? That was the initial stage of life. And he was also in company of sages, as I told you. Yeah, I forgot to mention that if you see the 9 forms of devotion, I repeated, the 9 forms of devotion, we saw that in the Ramcharitmanas, right? So one among the 9 forms of devotion is company of sages, company of good people. This is in itself a form of devotion, because definitely when we are in good company, we learn good things, right? Samki Nwapel Satsang. So since his childhood, He has always been in the company of good people, in satsang, in company of sages. And that was very pleasurable to him. Instead, of playing of that age, children of that age, usually they will play, they will be with friends also. But he took great pleasure in learning, reading, chanting Mahabharat, Purans, the Ramayana, and all. And he was also associating himself with pilgrims and monks. Actually, sa village que in Bengal, the pilgrims or the monks, when they were on pilgrimage, they were usually stopping at Kamar Pukar to rest. So he was in company of these people. He would serve them. He would be with them. He would be learning stuff from them, right? And there was a mango orchard in the village where he used to spend his time. It's not like normal, like a child usually does at this young age. But he would spend his time in the mango orchard of the village. He was enacting scenes from the epics we just mentioned earlier, Ramayana, Mahabharata, the Purans and all. He was doing drama, he was enacting, right, the scenes. And he did not really want to study. As I told you, it was not his cup of tea, not at all. In fact, his brother also, Ram Kumar, suggested him to study law, Hindu law, to go in astrology, but he was not interested. Remember his reply. Remember this, please. He replied that he needed no breadwinning education, but wisdom only he needed, because wisdom would give him illumination. Wisdom will illumine his heart, that is, will give him illumination. And non plus bread-winning education, like we are doing right now. You are all educating yourself, you are all learning. Tomorrow you are going to have a job to earn and all. So he did not want that. So since he was a child itself, his preoccupation has been heading towards illumination, right? Maybe that's why people call him the younger brother of Jesus Christ. He is even called to be an avatar of God because of his act, maybe. So, yes, we were saying he was enacting from various scriptures, their epics. And when he was enacting, he was like totally immersed in the act. Let's say he was enacting Shiv, we prefer act as Shiv, right? So he would immerse himself in the character of Shiv, thinking and feeling and considering himself to be Shiv, equally namely Shiv, while acting. It's not a show off here, okay, qu'il peut montrer les comme Shiv, et non plus c'est arrogance, non. But that is what you call to go in trance. At times, people, when they do meditation, they go in a trance. A trance is a moment where we forget ourselves, we forget our root, where are we, and all. So he would usually feel that. He would feel, as I told you, example, if he would be enacting Shiv, he would feel like he is himself Shiv. This is the aim. This is the aim of spirituality, to consider oneself, or to believe oneself to be God. That's why the Veda has exclaimed, Aham Brahmasmi. That is, Aham is the I am God, I am Brahman. Right? So he would by himself go in that trance, feeling himself to be God, feeling himself one with God, ou bien in proximity of God. That was not a hard thing for him to do. Through the dramas, through the inactions, he would easily do that, right? So we continue. About his first enlightenment, you know, enlightenment, say that realization of the self-vidya, of the Atma, or of God, realization where we feel merged with God. That is called enlightenment. Qui, in simple terms, nous appelle libération aussi, right? Bon, at the age of 6 or 7, very young age, where I told you usually children of that age, they would play. Children of that age do not even consider religion or spiritual path, the majority. But at the age of 6 or 7, Gadadhar had his first spiritual experience. Just looking at nature, okay, he experienced that. Ça lui montre nous that man should be connected to nature. Il y a une leçon ici, here. Man should be connected to nature because through nature, it is one way to reach the supreme. You know, when you are living the city with all the noise, with all the rush, competition, it's not an easy life to live. But when you shift, you go near nature, you live in nature, you feel yourself calm automatically. You don't need medicines if you have stress and all. If you have insomnia and all, you don't need medicine for that. So we need to be connected to nature because nature is something which will help us to reach the enlightenment, right? So I was saying the first spiritual experience. So what did he see really? It was just a scene in nature, right? A scenery in nature. He saw, that is the part in your book which you maybe can underline. He saw a flock of snow white cranes. Okay, and these cranes, these birds were flying in the dark, clouded sky. So it was cloudy, it was dark, it was cloudy, and white cranes were flying there in the cloudy sky. And just by seeing that scenery of nature, he fell into a trance, right? So what is the significance of this scene, actually, of this scenery of nature? You know, when we talk about darkness, you know, when the weather is cloudy, it means dull, gray, dark, right? This signifies darkness. This signifies ignorance, right? The dark cloud, it signifies darkness, which means ignorance, right? And he saw white cranes flying. White, in spirituality, white represents purity, right? Purity. Ou bien, nous capables aussi de sattva gun is represented by white. We have the three guns, sattva, rajas, and tamas, right? So white, say the sattva or purity. And flying signifies to be free, right? You are free. You can easily fly somewhere. So that scene of the flock of the snow white cranes flying in the dark and cloudy sky, just seeing this, he went into a trance, right? So he would enact also, when he was enacting the role of Shiv, sorry, he again fell into another trance. Okay. And this is how it continued actually, going in trance. I say the perfect, even people, when they do meditation, they go to that trance. But he did not have to work that hard. At times, people take years to do meditation to reach that stage. Maybe no, just seeing nature, he could go in the trance, right? If we talk about his reforms, one of the things he teaches us, say, there should be no caste discrimination. Caste, creed, or color, whatever, there shouldn't be discrimination, right? For example, you know, Nufea Janev ceremony, which what we call the sacred thread, Upanayan Sanskar. So when he did his Upanayan Sanskar, he was asking for alms, he was begging. Maybe you know that, and Brahman, if a person, he does the Upanayan Sanskar, he goes to beg, right? So when he was begging, there was a lady who was a Shudra, gave Ramakrishna something in alms, and Ramakrishna accepted that, right? So one of the lessons is of Ramakrishna is that there shouldn't be discrimination. Pas oublier, il peut vivre dans une société where there was discrimination, racial, caste discrimination. So as I told you earlier, when we started, his life itself is a reform. He showed us the reforms, he taught us the reforms through his life. One among is this incident of accepting alms from a Shudra woman. Usually people of Ramakrishna was a Brahmin. Usually people, especially Brahmin, they don't accept anything from Shudras, like food, water, whatever it is. But he accepted because we are all the same. Remember the Varna we were doing? So this shows that the love Ramakrishna gave to love, which went beyond social convention and taboos. As I told you, that era was itself full of taboo. We should do this and that. He also compared all women to goddess Kali, even his wife. He got married. Even his wife, he considered to be a form of goddess Kali, right? It means that his grihast life, his household life, was not perfectly as the household life people have, right? But as I told you, he considered his wife to be a form of goddess, and he considered other women also as goddess, right? I don't know if the name of the wife is there, but you can note it. His wife's name was Sarda Devi. Sarda Watans Sharda Ushi, right? And interesting to know that Sharda became the first disciple of Ramakrishna. Sharada was the first disciple of Ramakrishna. So he did not have a normal household life, be in relation with the wife and all, but they had a purely spiritual relation, not physical anything, but purely spiritual relation. Ramakrishna is to wife Sharada Devi. Right? Now, considering women as a goddess, this is a virtue to be practiced by one and all. If everyone practices that, well, there will be no issues, there will be no problem for the girls, for the women to live in the society. We are not saying we need to consider them, oh, you are goddess and all, but considering them as goddess means giving them due respect. So well how the society is today. Women are not respected. They fall into prey. They are raped and so on and so on. So if this virtue of Ramakrishna is to be practiced, we will have a nice place on this earth to live, right? I mean the women. So he gave women their due rights and respect. Let's see about his religious life, which is the major part of his reform. So, as here written here, the aim of every Hindu is to realize God, to be one with Him, to get liberation and all. So his Ramakrishna, his life also was that. Even after getting married, he did not deviate from the spiritual path. He needed to reach God, right? So to reach God, one who has to surrender oneself to God, right? Surrender completely to God. And we have many ways of doing that. We have done in the Bhagavad Gita and other topics, you might remember. We have basically three paths: the Gyan Marg, what is we call the path of Gyan Yog, that is knowledge; Karma Marg, the path of action; and devotion, the path of bhakti. These are usually the three major paths that usually all scriptures talk about. At times we talk about the fourth path, which is Raja Yoga and all, which means meditation and all. But basically the trois chemins, Gyan, Bhakti, and Karma. Please don't forget that. And Ramakrishna, to reach the Supreme, he used the same path, obviously, but fully the easiest way to reach God was the path of bhakti. The path of bhakti. He gave the path of bhakti, he gave bhakti itself a new whole dimension, a new whole meaning. We'll see that, right? Well, Pavidya Kilin possesses bhakti, with that it comes karma also come in, and with that gyan also come in, right? Maybe fully academic knowledge was not important, but he had spiritual knowledge, religious knowledge, which is far more important, in attaining liberation, right? So far in his life, he had no guru, right? He had no guru. He did not went to school to study as well. Definitely, he did not have that meet highly educated teachers, and he was not also one of them, right? Like Dhruv, Dayanand, Roy, they were highly educated, but Ramakrishna, no, he wasn't. Very down to earth, and he was very unique as well. His approach to God was very unique. He was working as a priest, right? He was working as a priest in a Kali temple in Calcutta. He's he's yeah, he was working as a priest. Don't He was a Brahmin. Don't forget, a priest classified as a Brahmin in the Varna system. And he was praying Kali, of course. He loved Kali. He had devotion for that form of God, Kali, goddess, right? And he believed in beautification of the image of God, once again departing from general assumptions. Beautification of the image, and priest Kilifea Lipu do the prayers, of course, in the temple. And Lipu ban Murti faisait Metlens, faisait faire Abhishek, tout ça. That is to beautify the image. He would do that. He was very different from what we have learned so far. Other reformers, they did not believe, they did not do idol worship, but he did. That was his preoccupation, and that was his way of earning a living as well. Parce que quand il peut travailler as a priest, he would get some money, he would live on that, right? Now, he used to talk to Kali, right? He used to talk to Kali. As all of us, we talk to God at times, no? Normal. So he was also doing that. And there was a time he wanted to have the vision of Kali, to see Kali in front of him. Sorry. And he was so impatient for that. He could not wait to see Kali. He was requesting Kali each time to let him have her vision, but Nipanko trouve Kali as such. He would fall on the ground. He would cry like a child. Usually, no, they do, especially when they go to shops. They like something, and the parents are not going to buy that for the child. He was doing exactly the same. Paskili consider that Kali to be the mother. And we have an easy going relation with the mother. We can ask whatever we want. And also know we would do everything so that the mother can give us what we want. This is what Ramakrishna was doing. Ils étaient les gros par terre, les pour crier, les pour pleurer, just to have the vision of Mother Kali. And one day, he came to the temple. He was asking, praying to Mother Kali to let him have her vision, but still not. He decided to end his life. He decided to end his life. Et Kali, normalement, weapons with her. One among the weapons is the sword, l'épée, the sword. So he took the sword from the murti of Kali, and he was going to kill himself in front of Kali, just because Kali did not give him her vision. But it is said that just before that he killed himself, Kali appeared in front of him, and he was very much satisfied. He was happy with that. This is the level of devotion he presented to us. Bien sûr, we're not going to kill ourselves. This is not an example to take from him. But the whole thing is how to be adamant, Ziddiq Manadia, to in front of God. We can talk to God, ask God whatever we want in whichever language we use. God understands that. He gave a whole new dimension to devotion.